Welcome to another edition of Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager, and we are fortunate today to have two wonderful guests from the city. We have our Public Works Manager, David Hausaman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And James Bramble, our Senior Engineer. How are you doing?
Well, how are you?
Good. Well, we're here to talk about infrastructure, which is to some not that exciting, but to me, very exciting. And the reason is, one of the most important things I think a city government does is local infrastructure, whether it be sidewalks or roads or bike lanes or whatever the infrastructure is, parks. Your guys' departments handle that. You guys take care of that. And so I think it's a good time to update our community on what to expect over the next 6 to 9 months, and then possibly talk about the future. So thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you.
I'll start with the big one, the one that I get a lot of questions on. When are we going to finish on Mingus Avenue? What's going on with Mingus Avenue? And the good news is there's these orange cones out there right now. So who wants to go first? Let's talk about Mingus Avenue.
I'll go. Mingus Avenue, so this will be our last phase on Mingus Avenue. We recently completed the section between Willard Street and the 8th Street alignment in 2018. We have finished up with the design. We have bid the project. The project was awarded by council. The low bid contractor is Pavco Construction. We have held pre-construction meetings with Pavco. We have, the orange cones that you're referring to, we have utility relocations currently in the process right now. So we've got a couple of utility companies still relocating prior to our contractor getting in and being able to start up that project. But we do anticipate the start of that project here within the next couple of weeks. So very excited about that.
That's very exciting. So we're actually going to see some pavement being cut up and going to have some dirt. So is it going to look like the rest of Mingus then? What are you doing?
Sure. So we're reconstructing nearly 0.6 miles, roughly around 3,000 linear feet of roadway to include new ABC asphaltic base course and pavement. We've got over 6,000 linear feet of sidewalks. We'll be updating the handicap ramps at the crosswalk intersections. We have, it'll look pretty close to what Mingus looks like today. We'll have 2 traveling lanes, a center turn lane, and bike lanes also added on Mingus Avenue.
Very nice. So I also understand we're going to have the better marked crosswalks, and I think something you told me about a bus pullout for our transit system.
Yes, we do have a bus pullout for our transit system. If you can recall, the Circle K project had built one. We are actually going to be putting another one near the Main and 15th intersection, kind of just right across from the existing pullout. So there'll be another bus pullout. What's good with that is they're so close to the Main Street intersection that it actually gets the buses off the roadway. It is a pullout. And another, one of the existing stops. So we're excited to get that implemented within the project. You had mentioned something on our crosswalks. Part of this, we'll have two areas where we'll be doing what we call an RRFB, which is a rotating rapid flashing beacon, which is it's a device where pedestrians can push a button, and those will light up the crosswalks. For a safer crossing of the crosswalk, since Main Street is a pretty busy street. So
yeah, I'm very excited about that. So but on Mingus there, what about stormwater? I know we had a big storm a couple weeks ago, and it actually flooded over Mingus for a little bit there. Are we making any stormwater improvements?
Absolutely, we are. On 11th Street, we've got a kind of a little problem area just south of Mingus, and we're going to have a trench drain that collects stormwater there. It's going to carry down 11th Street, make a left at Mingus, and make its way down underground to Railroad Wash. So that's kind of the big one, and then as is pretty standard with when you go to curb gutter sidewalk, you have to have curb inlet catch basins to collect that stormwater and convey it down to the wash. Also on the south side of Mingus Avenue from about 11th Street down to 15th or so, there's a new ditch with new driveway culverts and those to carry the stormwater off of the road there.
So when the project was being explained to me, and maybe so people can get, this is a costly project, and David, maybe you can remind us in a second what that cost is, but it was pretty big ticket. But a lot of that had to do with the stormwater project underneath it, some big culverts or something. How big are the tubes underneath the road?
Yeah, it's a large culvert. It's an arch pipe. I want to say it's 57 inches wide and
Wow.
46 tall or something. So it's a big trench.
Wow, that is a big trench. And so that goes to the cost. David, what is this project going to cost the city?
Well, right now the project's going to cost the city, it was bid at around $2.7 million for this work. Of that, $550,000 was the drainage work.
Wow.
So a pretty big ticket item for the drainage work. We have about 1.5 million of that was the 2015 series pledge obligation issue that was given out. We had budgeted an additional $500,000 this year in our capital funds, and we were covering the rest with the general reserves. So.
Okay, so wow, a lot of money, but we're going to spend it rather quickly, right? How long do you think this project's going to take?
This project, we should be wrapping up either close to the end of the year or early January is what we're anticipating this project.
Well, that's a pretty good time frame. The last time Mingus was worked on, it was torn up for a long time.
It was, yeah.
Now, given the size of the culverts and the groundwork being done, is traffic going to be open? How's the traffic flow going to work for these 4 months?
So we're still working with the contractor to get a good picture of what that's going to be. We have a meeting set up with them this week to kind of kick it off. I'm anticipating that for that large storm drain, it's going to be pretty tight getting traffic through there. So there may be some restrictions right off the bat for that. But in talking with the contractor, they're pretty confident that they can maintain traffic through there on one side or another with the width of the roadway available to them. So it's just going to be watch the signs and be careful going through there. There will be quite a bit of work going.
Drive slow, protect our contractors, and pay attention to the signs as the traffic will change possibly day to day or at least week to week as we switch sides and the different kinds of work being done. Well, this is exciting. Like I said, I've been here 2.5 years, and it's been on my to-do list, or people have been asking me when it's going to get done since before I got here. So great news, very exciting about that. But we've got some other things going on in the city. So why don't we go on break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the other projects, including a big sidewalk project that's planned for this year.
Terrifying jobs, high-flying linemen, take 3.
Josh, this is an absolutely terrifying job. Why do you do it?
It's a very demanding job, but very rewarding and exciting.
How much energy are you actually working with up there?
500,000 volts of electricity.
It's definitely not my line of work. Does anything shock you?
Yeah, distracted drivers terrify me.
This is Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager, and today we're talking about infrastructure. One of the biggest uses that people pay taxes for is to get better roads and better streets. And in the City of Cottonwood, we get to thank David Hausaman, our Public Works Manager, and James Bramble, our Senior Civil Engineer, who are responsible for those, or at least have been for the last few months. Not very long, but for the last several months. So we had just finished talking about the Mingus project. We hope to be finished, I'll say by January. That way, if we beat that deadline, we'll be good. But during that time, we expect traffic to be intermittent, possibly blocked at times. So pay attention, drive slow. Well, when do you think that working hours will be? When can people expect noise or the most movement out there on the street, James?
Sure. Our city ordinance allows 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., but the contractors, they don't make money with paying overtime, so you can expect pretty standard shifts out there, usually starting about daylight in the summertime for sure. 8-hour shifts Monday through Friday. We don't anticipate weekend work at this point, but there may be a special circumstance where we need to work with them on night or weekend work just to get across a busy driveway or something like that, do it when there's less traffic.
Either way, they'll need to pay attention to the traffic signs because the road will be blocked or marked off periodically for the next 4 months or so.
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming you'll work with the neighbors that live on that street to let them know when their driveways are going to be blocked or when the dirt's going to be in front of their house?
Certainly, yeah. We did a lot of that during the easement acquisition process to get sidewalk and drainage easements. We've met with them several times, but we'll send out an announcement and get in close contact with the folks that'll be most directly impacted.
All right. Well, we still need to talk about stormwater being our floodplain manager, so we'll get back to that in a second. But I'm real excited about a couple other projects we have coming up this year having to do with sidewalks. Council has made sidewalks over the last several years a priority. It was part of the sales tax increase that they dedicated to improving and adding sidewalks to our community. So who wants, David, is that going to be you? You can talk about sidewalks.
Yeah, I'll talk about some recent sidewalk projects that we've completed. So like you said, every year we go to council and we get a priority list to council in regards to, some infill sidewalk projects that we can, accommodate the community as far as some of the higher traffic areas. One of those being next to the hospital on Willard Street between Beach Street and Paula Circle. So we just finished that up recently, added 6-foot sidewalks. It was a section that we didn't have sidewalks, as that being in close proximity to a residential neighborhood as well as the hospital, we do get a lot of pedestrian use on that street. Another one was with the library. So we had we have issues where when the library parking lot fills out, library users will have to park at the rec center parking lot. And to get them safely across the street and actually into the front doors of the library, we never really had that access. So Ryan Bigelow, our library director, was able to get a grant, and we were able to coordinate with Yavapai County and build a sidewalk on that north side of their parking lot to accommodate an ADA access all the way to the library front door. So that was another one we just recently finished up.
That's very exciting. It's kind of dangerous having your pedestrian path right through the middle of a parking lot,
Sure.
Which is exactly what was happening when those spaces filled up, and they do filled up. It's exciting. I'm glad to see our library being used, but I prefer to have a safe method to get our people back and forth. So that's awesome. Thank you. And then what do we have on the horizon?
We've been working on finishing up a design for sidewalk on Fir Street from Chuckawalla to Monte Tesoro. That would only be on the north side of the street there, and putting in a 6-foot sidewalk, a little bit of pavement to tie that in, and ADA ramps, some drainage improvements to make sure the water is being collected properly off of the adjacent properties and flowing down the gutter.
So right now there's not a sidewalk on either side.
There's not.
And so there's a school nearby if I have my area correct. Is that right?
Correct.
And so this will help neighborhood kids get safer to school. I know getting kids safe to school is a priority for council, and this one's been on the list, I know, as long as I've been here as well. This one is just so people understand the costs and time involved. We've designed this one in-house, if I remember correctly, right?
Correct.
And then, but the construction cost alone is still pretty steep, if I remember correctly. Do we have an estimate on that one?
Yeah, I think the last estimate that we had done, we're in 3 figures. I think it was upwards, around 650,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. We'll be going to council here probably towards the end of the month with our sidewalk priorities. That'll be one of our main sidewalk priorities that we want to get done this year. We did budget for that in our capital improvements, so we're excited to get that project going.
Yeah, it's great news up there. So we do every year go to council and make sure we're getting the right sidewalks done as they set the priorities for us and our roads. And I believe that sometime later this year, we have pavement preservation coming up. I know you don't have the roads picked out yet, but can you tell us how we take care of our roads?
Yeah, so every 2 years we budget close to $650,000 for pavement preservation. Pavement preservation can include a number of different treatment types, whether it's a chip seal, or it's a slurry seal, anything along those lines. Well, we prioritize a lot of those on our major collector roads, roads that are carrying the majority of the traffic. Within the past couple of years, we've also kind of split some of those funds up and started really focusing on our local roads. So last year we were able to complete a large section of a chip seal project in our local neighborhoods. We're going to be planning on carrying that out a little bit, as well as a lot on our major arterials and collector roadways that we have.
So I think we still have a couple minutes left while we're talking about road maintenance. And after Mingus, the next one I get is 89A. You know, you make a left there on 260 and follow that street, and until you make a left again by Walgreens, it's a pretty rough road. Why isn't the city taking care of that?
The city doesn't own that road, actually, so we're happy to be able to say that. But we have been working with ADOT to get some attention brought to that road, partnering with them on a project that hopefully will be under design soon, that will replace that pavement pretty much from Cottonwood Street, the intersection with Main Street and 89A, through town out to the Verde River Bridge.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's going to be great.
So all those, they're not even potholes, all those divots or big holes or ruts or whatever you call them, gone?
That's the plan.
That'll be nice. Now, what about the sidewalk? Kind of rough in a couple areas along that stretch.
So along with that, when you're replacing pavement to that depth, there are requirements that go along with that with federal dollars that require you to bring all the sidewalks and driveways up to current ADA standards. So that will be part of that project.
And then I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but bike lanes?
I don't anticipate that they'll be able to widen that roadway. There are some ways that you can kind of cheat by narrowing up the travel lanes for vehicles and kind of striping some of that width into a bike lane, and that's something that we'll work with ADOT on to determine if that's the right way to go.
But ultimately, it's ADOT's decision, given it's ADOT's road, and that's a big, that's a main road. Semi trucks, big trucks come through there. At least 5 lanes of traffic, maybe more in a couple spots. So it's a pretty busy stretch of our main street.
Absolutely, yeah. So along with that amount of traffic, narrowing up of the vehicle travel lanes may not end up being a possibility, but we're certainly going to ask.
Well, we're excited about it. It's as a tourist community and as a road that gets used by our regulars, by our community, by our local taxpayers. It's rough on the car, so I'm very excited that that's going to be happening. And thank you for working with ADOT, and thanks to ADOT. I'll just thank you, ADOT. I know it's a 2-year project, designed this year and possibly build the next year, if I remember correctly. So we may not see construction until after July of next year. Am I correct there?
That's probably a fair statement. I can't speak to their design schedule, but I would anticipate that would have to be night work with as busy as that road is, and so there's only certain times of the year that you can do that at night. So that kind of leaves summer as early fall is the best option. Well,
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for 22. I'm hoping it's not 23, but I'm just glad that the local ADOT directors of Northern Arizona in that district decided to make that street a priority. So when we come back, we've got a couple more projects in town that we want to talk about. There's a bridge that's going to be repaired and some other items. So when we get back, we'll talk some more about infrastructure in Cottonwood.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
Need a ride to work in Sedona? Hop on the new Verde shuttle at the Cottonwood Library and ride to all the major employers in Sedona for just $2. It's just that easy. Looking to get back to work? Sedona has jobs and the Verde shuttle gets you there every 45 minutes. It's just that easy. Working late? The Verde shuttle runs till 10:30 and offers free after-hours shuttle in Cottonwood. It's just that easy. Check out verdeshuttle.com for details or ask Google Maps for transit directions. It's just that easy.
Well, welcome back to another edition of Inside Cottonwood. I am Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager, and today we have our infrastructure crew, our leaders in the organization that are responsible for roads and many, many other things. So we have David, our Public Works Manager. Welcome, sir. And James, our Senior Engineer. Before we start talking about the next set of projects that we have coming up, I want to talk ever so briefly, and I should have, it just hit me, and this is what happens when you think on the fly, is your departments don't do just roads and sidewalks. You also take care of all the city facilities, including our parks and our any facilities that belongs to the City of Cottonwood. So I'll just go on the record of saying thank you for all the work you put in. I know that taking care of our that's not the right word, our highly used parks facilities. We appreciate all the work you do to keep those running and operating and going, so thank you for that. But we do have some road projects, some other things. Actually, the next one I think we want to talk about is a bridge project. We don't have a lot of bridges, but we have some bridge project going on.
We do. It's another project we're working with ADOT on. It's money through NACOG that ADOT administers to replace the bridge deck on the bridge that's over Del Monte Blowout Wash on Pima Street in Old Town. The bridge, as far as we're aware, was built somewhere around the 30s.
Oh.
And so it's fairly aged and
yes.
In need of some attention. So this project has been in the works for a while, getting going. It's currently under design at 60% plans, moving forward to 95. It's going to be a pretty simple project. Take the concrete deck and railing off of the bridge, replace it with a new concrete deck and current standard bridge railing, and then tie the new pavement into it. And as far as the existing steel girders, they'll be pretty much just repainted.
So not a whole lot will change for the size of the bridge or anything like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you get into widening, it probably would have been easier to replace the entire thing, and this was a pretty limited scope project. So it won't be any wider, unfortunately, but at least it'll be up to current load standards and a nice new bridge.
Yeah, it'll be safer. And bridges built in the 30s, they were built well. They're still holding up, but it'd be nice to have them restructured and confirm that they're doing well.
And we'll get some new pavement on either side of it, so that's always a plus.
If you haven't driven on that stretch, it's in need of some new pavement. So, and ADOT, we want to thank them again for helping us take care of our community. So I'm guessing the road will be closed for a few months?
Yes, I don't know exactly what the current schedule's showing, but there's no other way to do that other than closing it, at least in the immediate bridge area. So there will be detours using 3rd and 2nd Streets to get around those neighborhoods.
So local businesses will be open for business. So I think Three Kings Caspar is a restaurant that's right in that area. So they'll be able to get there from Main Street and Pima. And then people in the communities, the neighbors that live in that area, will have to use Main Street on either side of the wash, I guess, is the way they'll access their home and businesses.
Absolutely. Really, the impacts are going to be limited to the bridge area itself. The contractor will likely stage equipment and materials in the city property next to the park there, but shouldn't be a huge impact as far as space-wise. It'll just be an inconvenience for several months while that bridge deck is being replaced.
All right. Well, there's another project in town that I'm very excited about. David, you're working to make Main Street a little safer to cross.
Yes, we recently got Prop 202 funds from the tribe to add 2 additional RRFBs, which are those rotating rapid flashing beacons. We currently have one on Main Street. As you know, you have to, when you're crossing Main Street, you cross 5 lanes of traffic. You cross, 4 traveling lanes and the center turn lane. So those do make them safer. We're planning on putting one on Aspen Street as well as Birch Street. So there'll be a total of 3 on that corridor through Main Street there.
And that's city staff is putting that in, or did we hire a contractor for that?
City staff will be putting those in. So our streets department will be installing those. We're anticipating those to be erected here within the next couple of weeks. So
well, another thing that's been asked for a lot, and we appreciate council funding that from the Prop 202 funds. Well, what other kind of projects do we have coming up? Bus transit, I think we're doing some improvements for our transit system.
That's another project we're working with ADOT to be able to permit us to install bus shelters on Highway 260 at 2 of our existing stops where we don't currently have a shelter. One would be near Fir, kind of below Jack in the Box on 260 there, and the other one is at Rodeo near Walmart, that bus stop. And I believe they also are working on expanding their canopy shelter at the transit station to cover some new buses.
Mm-hmm.
That is, yeah, I did hear about that. We got some new buses coming in, and we need a couple more bays to fit them in. So, well, this is a lot going on in our small little community, and I think, David, as you referred to earlier, when we started pavement preservation, probably in the springtime, it's going to be a lot more construction going on there, and whether we have to spend all our money on the main streets or whether we can get back to the neighborhoods. I know that chip seal that was done a couple years ago near the cemetery and the Verde Lee there sure did make a big difference in those roads going there. So we look forward, and we're very appreciative council prioritizing roads. I'm also very thankful for ADOT investing in our community. Just hearing ADOT said so many times reminded me of the partnership that we have with the state of Arizona and their willingness to help fund these local projects. So we appreciate it. All right, so it's the last chance. Any other projects that you think that we need to talk about?
We have some flood study going on right now that we take a look at that floodplain, the FEMA delineated floodplain on Silver Springs Gulch that determines where those boundaries are and what those flows are and what properties are impacted. So there'll be more to come on that, with changing topography, new development, it does change that watershed and what those delineations are. So sometimes those lines move, unfortunately, but there'll be more to come on that.
Well, I'm assuming from those studies we'll be able to prioritize some of our city projects to help the flow of water and to help where we can. I know the flooding has been bad recently in a couple of them, but as you've explained to me more than once, that a couple weeks ago storm was above what we planned for, even, that if you can help explain that so people can understand.
Certainly. So yeah, there are national standards, the design storms that FEMA uses to determine those floodplains. And in this area, we had from some reports well over 3 inches in an hour. And while we would design for that amount of rainfall, 3 inches, it's usually over more like 24 hours, not an hour. So unfortunately, it is just above and beyond the national standard of what you could design for. You could design for it, but you probably wouldn't be able to build anywhere.
Right.
So it's kind of a balance of this is a reasonable storm to accommodate with your infrastructure. So we do hope to get some priorities. We partner with Yavapai County Flood Control District for some funding as well, and we're working on prioritizing where that goes. That's actually who's funding this flood study right now.
Yeah, big thanks to Lynn and her team over there at Yavapai County Flood District. We appreciate working with them. Great partners. They've got a lot of priorities in Yavapai County. We're all built on a hill, really, and water's running downstream. So we appreciate it. All right, David, any last words as we say goodbye to our community?
I don't think I have any other updates for the...
Well, this is awesome. Thank you both for joining me today, and this has been another edition of Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager.